I couldn't write about this, I couldn't write about this. I couldn't even write like that he put his hand on her thigh. And even telling me like romance novels have ruined so many marriages.
What kind of romance? Like just like fantasy, lovey-dovey, or like too far? And solely because of the
Because
passion,
he said
right?
I opened up doors to the devil. Yeah, I even had my ex say to me that I was a good mom now, but he didn't know if I would continue to be a good mom.
A famous author from Tampa, Florida, gave me some of her unreleased poems and asked me to illustrate them. But because I drew them digitally, I felt it would be too tacky to email them. And I couldn't just mail my tablet, so I did the most logical thing I could think to do. I packed everything I owned, threw it in the RV, and hit the road to hand deliver my artwork in person. Making this the first project road trip. We just got to Spring Hill, Florida. We've been here for a few hours here. We're chilling out with some family. We are gonna see in the morning our special guest, which I'm excited to announce. We'll see that in just a minute. And I need to shave, good God. Ugh. I'm on my way to the location. We're driving there right now. Welcome to the Project Podcast, the series where we talk about art and the business of art through all its fields and mediums. With me today is a special guest I'm excited to have on my podcast. She's a single mom of 3 children, a writer, a poet, an author, and a public speaker. And she's given us the opportunity to see some of her unreleased poems that we got to illustrate this weekend, and we'll be showing her in the end of the video here, so make sure you watch to the end. I now introduce to you Lizzie Parker.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So we can just jump right into it. If you want to introduce yourself or tell us a little bit about you.
Okay, so like he said, my name's Lizzie. I do write. I have always wanted to be a full-time writer since I was a child. And poetry was not something I ever thought that I was good at, but it became an outlet for me. So as I got older and as I was going through a lot of the struggles that I went through in my marriage and religion.
Yeah, we'll get into that in just a second here.
That is why I wrote poetry. It became an outlet for me.
Do you feel like writing has been an outlet since you were younger, or is it something that you're using as an outlet now? Like
when I was younger, I don't think I used it too much as an outlet. Like writing poetry I did though, but writing stories, no.
When you first got into it, what was the inspiration that was making you write?
Well, because I love reading. And I love stories.
Yeah,
and
that usually goes hand in hand.
Yeah, and I love like the made up world. I love the idea of being able to do whatever you want with characters. And so when I first started writing, I was just kind of writing like corny little stories that were half finished and things like that. I want to show the world me, but I want to show the world me to inspire others that they can be themselves. Like I'm sure I'm not the only woman who went through what I went through, or to get out of that kind of religion and to really see other aspects of the world and see truth. And so my drive is really just to finally pursue my dream, as I'm 34, and to inspire others to do the same thing. And then, I mean, for me, it's without saying, but I'll say it here, like my kids always, girls, I have 3 girls, they are my everything, and I want them to have a better life, and I want them to be able to pursue their dreams without a lot of hindrances that we face.
Yeah. Would you say that was like, do you see a fantasy in your head? Like, are you able to visualize when you're reading, or is it like, because when I read a book, I see it in a movie style. I've already explained this off camera with you, with seeing shot for shot and how it would be like if this was in a script. How do you see books when you read them, or when you write, what do you see?
So it is kind of the same as when I read and when I write. Like the characters are real in my head, and I see like everything about them, their hair color, you know, their dislikes, the way they talk, everything. So it's kind of the same. I just have a story in my head and they're real, and I kind of let them tell their story.
And what do you focus on when you write now? Is it fiction, nonfiction? What is your niche, I should say? Like,
okay, well, everything. Meaning I write fiction, nonfiction, I write poetry, but right now, if we're talking about what I'm working on right now,
yeah, we can go with right now,
is I'm working on my memoir.
Okay, and explain a little bit more on the memoir.
Oh gosh, my memoir is like my life story.
Okay.
Do you want me to go deeper?
Yeah, we can talk about that. Yeah.
Okay.
So tell me a little bit about the memoir.
Okay, so it is going to start in my childhood because that's very significant because it has to do with how I was born and raised in the Christian church, the modern Christian church. I feel that's very important to point out. It's like the church that you can find on the corner of the street.
Right, like every corner, yeah.
Yes, pretty much. And I was born into that, I married into that, and I was very heavily involved in it. I don't want to give away too much, but like I got really deep into it, and you wouldn't think that would be harmful is the right, I don't know if that's the right word.
I think I understand, yeah.
For my psyche.
Right, yeah.
But it takes, so I'm now 34, so it's like my whole life, and I got married when I was 19. Am I allowed to reveal that?
Yeah, I think that's
So I got
totally
married
fine.
when I was 19, and it has to do with my marriage, with religion, and how I eventually got out, and why I got out, and like what it did to me.
Do you want to maybe go into that just a little bit about why you got out of it, or do you want to save that a little bit?
No, I can go into it a little bit. So I had always had a love, like a first love, if you want to call it, and it was reading, but not just any books, it was romance books, okay?
So when you say romance, this is before we go too far.
Yes.
What kind of romance? Like just like fantasy, lovey-dovey, or like too far? Or is it a little bit of...
So it started, obviously, when I was young, just reading. And then I got into like the romance genre, and I was like, oh, I like this. But then, and I do talk about this in my book in more detail, so you'll want to hear that. Someone gave me a spicy romance.
Okay.
I know.
It's like the covers that in the library is very like a very macho and like this like ab chipped unrealistic.
Right. I know
Oy,
those are
caliente.
Harlequin, right? Actually, no. This one was very innocent looking on the cover, so you wouldn't have thought that it had a scene in it that.
I see.
You know. Anyway, so that opened my door, if you want to say that, to, oh my gosh, I didn't know that they had these kinds of scenes in books.
Yeah.
So then I wanted to read those kinds of romance books. Now, the thing is the way I was raised is that's like a no-no.
A taboo, yes.
It's like a sin. You don't read about that. Like the bedroom door is supposed to be closed, right? And so, and again, in my book, I share the whole struggle because it was years and years of like back and forth, like of me. I kept going back to the romance novels, right? I wanted to read them, but I wasn't allowed. And it became obviously such a huge struggle that, I mean, I'm divorced, if anyone didn't guess that by him saying I'm a single mom. I eventually left it behind, the religion and everything. But it wasn't just because of reading. There was other things, because like since I loved to read that stuff, I wanted to write that kind of stuff, like romance and everything.
Would you say that was also inspiration that was like bundled up, like you couldn't put onto paper, or...
That's a very good way to put it.
Wait a sec, hold on, look at this. All of these art prints, I made them. They're only $12. $12, not that much. $12 to $20 each of these pieces. Almost all of them are available. So the new Creator hoodie just came in. Check this out. Mint green, new logo, the nice splash logo. I love this. And then check this out underneath. I'm gonna flash it here for a second. We got the nice little embroidered logo for the new shirts. You can go check those out. Both on the website right now, available in bone and mint. If you like dark art, support me at thementorprojects.com or the link in the bio.
Like, I felt restricted. I felt like...
Do you want to maybe explain just a little bit why you felt restricted? Because I don't think that was ever...
No, it didn't, right.
So maybe just elaborate a little bit why you weren't allowed maybe, or were restricted to writing or pursuing what you were interested in.
Well, because, again, like the same reason I can't read it is the same reason I can't write it, because it was considered a sin. Right. It was considered something that was unholy. It was considered filthy.
Right.
Like they would even call them, secular romance, which, secular is not in the church. It's in the world, all the unsaved people.
Right.
So, but I wanted to write romance that showed every aspect of the love story, including what happens in the bedroom, which is taboo, right?
Yes.
And so that's why I felt restricted, because the Bible, which is what the church that I went to, the religion, whatever you want to call it, they believed in, and you're not supposed to write those things. You're not supposed to write about people having sex before marriage, because that's a sin. You're not supposed to write about, anyone cussing and, First of all, the churches that I went to, and then my ex, when I was married, went to, they very much all believed that. They very much all believed that this is a sin, this is not okay. And there was actually, let's back it up to when I was, I think, around 16, when I let go of them the first time. There was a scripture verse, because remember, I was born and raised in the church, so I did read the Bible on my own. There was a scripture verse it went something like, therefore rid yourself of all such things as these, something like that. And it listed them. And then it said, and get rid of moral filth. Right. And moral filth, again, this was considered moral filth.
Okay,
right. So there was that scripture verse that I was like, oh, I felt God was speaking to me and saying that this is moral filth. You can't be reading this. And so I let them go.
Right.
And then the churches do preach on holiness.
Purity and yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is not holy. And if you'll allow me to fast forward way in the future, without giving too much away. Again, this is just the tip of the iceberg, because I give all the details and everything in my book.
Super excited. We'll definitely take a look at that when it comes out.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's my own book.
I think it was, you're talking about as a kid and writing and how you grew up
in the Bible
church,
and how I let go of it. Thank you.
Go,
yes. So there actually came a time before I went out of my marriage, left my marriage, excuse me, where, and again, I explain how I got into this kind of situation in the book. I was on the phone with someone. I did not want to be on the phone with this person. It was a church person. I knew who it was. It wasn't that the person themselves made me feel uncomfortable. It was that I didn't want help.
Right.
But my ex was like, you need help. All the people, now keep in mind, I had no one but church people.
When you say need help, need help for what you're doing or writing or wanting to pursue? Or
yes,
need help in
so
what?
They said that I needed help because I was sick. Mentally sick. They said I was mentally sick because of what I wanted to read, the things that I wanted to do. And it was a very hard time in my life because I had no one else around me other than those people that believed that way. And it's you're standing in a room full of people and everyone's pointing their fingers at you.
Yeah, and it makes you feel like, if am I the one who's wrong kind of thing.
Yeah, because they're all telling you that you're wrong.
Right.
And I was on the phone for an hour with this person and I didn't want to be, but he was preaching at me. I use the word preaching, right? Trying to tell me, and pretty much begging me, saying, I beg you, please, begging you, please don't do this. Making it out to be so grave. And even telling me romance novels have ruined so many marriages. And it was just, and for an hour, and I didn't want to be there. And at that time in my life, though, I felt...
Yeah, there's an obligation to kind of stay on the phone. Because, I know my ass would be and just put down. But yeah, I understand if you've grown up in that world, you feel obligated to respect elders or older or people who are male, especially in that world, and listen to them whether or not you like their advice or not.
Right.
And I understand that can be very difficult for sure.
Well, I was also still on the fence, so to speak, which we won't get into that here because it's very complex. In my book, I explained why was I on the fence? Where did this intimidation come from? Why did it take me years to leave? It's a very complex story, so I'll leave that for the book because I can't explain it in 2 minutes here. But there was a lot of those factors that went into why this stuff happened.
And would you say now, with your writing experience, you're more free and able to
100%
completely put out what you want? Yeah.
100%, because I felt like my creativity was being stifled too, if that's the word to use, because I couldn't write about this. I couldn't write about this. I couldn't even write that he put his hand on her thigh. It was very restricted. It was in this box and I just felt like I couldn't even say, damn. I couldn't say anything.
Yeah,
it was
things,
very, my creativity was
So we'll go a little bit deeper with what we've been talking about. Where was your mental health before and after writing? And because you mentioned, the church treated you as almost a mental illness in and of itself for just thinking and wanting to write and act on these things. But where would you say that brought your actual mental health?
Oh, God. And that's something that I feel like in the church, at least, again, I can only speak from my experience in the churches I went to and the group that I surrounded myself with. It was mental health was not a thing, if that makes sense. Because I actually do share in the book, I went through deliverance sessions. We are going to leave that for the book, though, so that they can find out exactly what I'm talking about.
Exorcist, kind of, right?
So I wouldn't use that analogy because that is very sprinkling holy water.
A little bit more satanic.
Exactly.
Demonic. But
exactly. So they'll have to read my book to find out what I mean by deliverance.
Yeah, kind of like cleansing. Okay.
But I went through those, and so they didn't use the term mental health because, again, oh, you have strongholds in your mind or you have demons in your mind. So if we can just deliver you in Jesus' name and get those things out, well, you're free, right? So I never, when I was in there, thought of mental health because everything was cured by spending time with God, by reading your Bible, praise and worship. So I never thought of it. So now looking back, I see that as I got further on, like later in my years of marriage, when things got really bad and I just was done with it all, I had people around me, even my ex, I'll say things like, I think she's having a mental crisis. I think that she thinks you and her daughters are the enemy, which hearing that I thought that my daughters were the enemy was...
Yeah, that's a jab to the heart, right? Like that's a
because I was a stay-at-home mom for over
you're
9 years. Like
them,
they are everything, right? And then like what happened to you? You were such an amazing woman of God, and just looking at me, I even had my ex say to me that I was a good mom now, but he didn't know if I would continue to be a good mom.
And solely because of
because
passion,
he said
right?
I opened up doors to the devil. Now, and it was so much more. Again, in my book, I share all of it. It's so much more than just reading or writing. It was more than that. It was the content of what I like to read.
Right.
And it was also...
Yeah, because like just to clarify, you weren't writing porn, right? It wasn't just like...
No!
I just want whatever.
No!
It was passionate. It was storyline. It was book,
a
right?
novel. If you want to get even deeper... It was I'm very into LGBTQIA community and to those kinds of stories. Like I love gay romance, which is I think
needs to be spoken on a little bit more, especially in literature and things like that.
Right.
So, yeah,
and that is like
that's
top
a big
no.
I understand that a lot more for them to be a little bit more, because I thought maybe if it was just a little bit more passionate stuff that you're trying to write and storyboard like that.
Well, even that.
But yeah, I understand if you're going to that route of things,
Yes.
that makes the church go, no, we don't want our hands in it. We'll invest out.
But so like my mental health, and like they were saying things like this about me, and then like I told you that hour-long conversation I had with the man, like he was like begging me not to do this. Like it was like everywhere I turned, they were looking at me like, you are sick. And actually my ex even said to me, he goes, "You're sick. You need help." And he was like saying it with conviction. Like they literally believed that I was mentally sick, that I needed help. Wanted me to go to therapy, but it was always Christian therapists, right? So to go no more into here, like, what is my mental health like? I didn't realize I had so many things I needed to heal from. I knew I needed to heal. Everybody after divorce needs to heal, okay? But like, there was a lot of mental patterns in my head that had been formed from the way I was taught.
Right.
And the religion in the Bible that I'm still actively healing from. Like, I mean, if you want one example, if I have a bad day, like let's say I wake up and I feel down. I feel kind of sad, and I do my meditating over here. I use my crystals. Yeah, like I use my crystal. I take a walk, and I still just feel down. I am so hard on myself, and I didn't realize, this is the most recent realization. I didn't realize, why am I so hard on myself? Like, why do I feel guilty for having a bad day? I should be happy every day. What's wrong with me, right? I should be consistent. And I realized through talking to someone I'm really close to, my best friend. I feel like this is not the right way to phrase it, but I'm gonna say it this way. It's like I wasn't allowed to have a bad day. And what I mean by that is, like, if it went on, like, let's say a day or 2 or 3 or whatever, he would be like, I can tell you haven't spent time with the Lord. Because if I just spent daily time with God, I could be, his joy.
The Jesus and God is cure for whatever is wrong with mental.
And I didn't realize that that's why I was so hard on myself, because I was like, I should be, because I wasn't almost allowed to have too many bad days, or my attitude was not allowed to be bad.
Yeah, I think something that comes with many religions, not just Christianity, but there's this promise of enlightenment when you accept the belief or the belief style of the religion. Like I was saying, there's this promise of enlightenment, and I've been baptized. I've been through the whole church things and everything as well.
Absolutely.
And there is definitely an enlightenment feeling that comes with that in a congregation and being with people of like-mindedness. Happiness is perceived to be this emotion that when you have it, it's there forever. But happiness is no more than sad or any other emotion. It's something that comes temporary. It's a joyous feeling. To think that any kind of happiness should be eternal or long. And I think that's what religion kind of inbreds into the minds of people who come in, is like, you know, if you're with Jesus, you'll always be happy. And when you're not with Jesus, you're no longer connected and you're no longer going to be happy. And that's why.
And again, though, they don't even call it happiness. They call it the joy of the Lord. Because if you're with him, the joy of the Lord is just supposed to be in you. And that's why it's like you're supposed to spend time with him every day. That's one side of the coin. Like, from what I was brought up, and then realizing, well, maybe I should have some grace with myself. Like, I don't have... doesn't mean something's wrong with me if I'm having a bad day. And then also I was putting a lot of pressure on myself to be happy every day because this is the life I chose. Like that was a very big theme with, again, you'll find in my book, like you chose this, you chose this, you chose this.
Almost like your self-guilt kind of thing.
Right, and so I felt like, well, I have to prove to them that I can be happy without God, that I can be happy on my own. And I didn't even realize I was putting that pressure on me.
Right. So now's the part of the video where I'm going to show Lizzie here the illustrations that I worked on this weekend. They're very simple, but they're two her poems that she gave us the opportunity of reading this week before they're released. They're from her new, what would you call it, a poem book? I don't know.
It is. I'm not releasing the title yet, though.
Okay. Also, we never even went over, what is the title of your other book?
Should I reveal it?
But just so people are prepared so they can find it.
Okay.
Look at the title.
This is like, okay, oh Jesus.
Has no one heard the title yet, Lizzie?
Only his mom, my best friend.
Oh my God.
Sister.
Okay, are you ready?
Okay.
Can you say the title?
Okay. It is called Be a Good Christian Girl.
Oh, okay, I do like that. That is a good title. I like that.
I just love it. Oh.
Cool. Okay. So, open your eyes.
Okay.
It's a white screen. Okay. No.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So this is just a little time lapse. This is the blurry reel. So the premise of this was like, because you felt restrained, I felt was the overall genre of this poem.
This one.
Tightened.
This one was when I still thought I was in sin.
Okay. And see, like I said, I didn't know any of that. I thought they were written now or like previously or recently. I didn't know they were.
But this was exactly how I felt.
Right, and I wanted to kind of capture what you had felt. This is the kind of the goal I try to do with all my artwork, is try to make someone else feel. And I'm trying to get in your head of things. And with the snake line, I figured I would go with a snake. And it's kind of wrapped around her neck, wrapped around her body there.
This is perfect because that's what they said in the church. Like, that's what they thought. They thought that I was bound like that.
The snake would kind of correlate with, like, you know, the Adam and Eve story a little bit. Just
yeah.
You know, how the snake was manipulative. And I don't feel like it's really too manipulative to you. I feel like it's like this facial expression of, like, I'm tired of hearing you.
Yeah. That's what I thought. I thought that I was bound because they told me I was. I thought that I was listening to evil. I mean, this is so perfect. Oh my God, like that would be perfect for the book. He's so talented. Did I tell you that before? God, he is like, oh my God, I love it. Oh, what else you got? I want to see the rest.
I have
Bring
one more
it
for
on.
you, and then I'll express my idea for another one. So this is a short poem. You want to read this one? This one's short.
Yes, I will. This one is called, Nothing Real. Drowning, screaming, struggling for breath, dying of a broken heart. Can't let go, won't go away, want it all, can't hold it together. Thoughts so strange, thoughts so wrong, going insane with the need for it to be okay. Marked for failure, is there hope? What can I say except I'm sorry I left?
So powerful. It's so much better when you read it, the writer actually reads it. Because when I read it, I'm like, she kisses my boo-boos, she braids my hair. Like, I'm so animatronic, but I love how
it's amazing because, again, this was written when I had that internal battle, and that's what I felt like. Oh my God, I felt like I was drowning. It's just like, and then they were telling me around me, like, why can't you just, be happy? You have everything you need to be happy. You have everything. And I was just like, but that's how I felt.
And like in there, it kind of says like, we're not a broken heart, but I wanted to keep the heart intact. And I was gonna color it bright red and have it glowing, but that was more detail than
I love this,
time-wise.
honestly. I love
And,
the simplicity because it's just so powerful.
That
Those are powerful.
I think that concludes everything.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think so. I'm super excited now.
Thank you for being on the podcast. Thank you for having me in your lovely room here
Oh,
with the aesthetic.
yes,
I love it.
thank you.
Hope we can see your book soon.
Yes,
and,
I'm super happy to be here.
I'll link everything in the description below so you can have some followers come and go follow my Aunt Lizzie and her writing career, and make sure to subscribe and check out thementalproject.com.